Welcome to the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show with celebrity nutrition expert, fitness Hall of Famer, and four-time New York Times bestselling author, JJ Virgin. JJ is a warrior mom whose knowledge and expertise have helped change hundreds of thousands of lives with over 3.5 million podcast downloads and appearances on Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, The Today Show, Rachel Ray, Larry King Live.
Whoa. This show is about you, not about me. I want to help you find practical, real-world ways to dial in your health and mindset so you can finally lose that weight and feel strong and energized. Stop settling for less than your personal best. It's time to find out how to look and feel better than ever. And I'll be right here with you the whole way. Hey, it's JJ, and welcome to today's show. And you know what? I am really kind of realizing that as you know, I interview some of the coolest people. First off, I have the most amazing community of health experts, docs, influencers, and I get the opportunity to interview some just amazing people. And they've got one thing. Besides just being awesome humans and generous and high integrity, they've got one other thing in common. And it is their, what I would call hero's journey. It is that generally what I've noticed is the people who are really doing cool things in health, it always seems to start with their own story. And Naveen Jain, my buddy Naveen, says that quite often challenges will be solved by people outside of an industry because they have a different perspective. And so this is a perfect example of this. Today I have Veronique Cardon on. What a beautiful name. Just makes me want to be like JJ Virgin. Anyway, so she started out as an engineer. And then she became a high-level corporate pharma exec. Okay, well, we forgive her for that because she's transitioned. And she was under so much stress, it just nearly killed her, nearly took her down. And she gained all this weight, 40 pounds, and she was just a mess. And so she went out to try to fix herself. And in the process of that, she thought, well, I might as well get a degree in nutrition. And, so she ends up getting her master's degree in holistic nutrition. And she really started to decide she was going to focus on helping other women in their 50s lose weight, which is great because most people shy away from women 40 plus with weight loss because they think that it's just like that ship has sailed, which, by the way, no, it hasn't. And do not let anybody ever tell you that if you're 40 plus. I'm in my 50s. I'm in better shape now than I was in my 20s. And do not believe that. And ask yourself instead, how do I get to be in my best shape in my 40s, in my 50s, in my 60s, in my 70s? And you're going to hear that she had amazing results with women in their 70s. So I just love that. So she, again, decided to focus on helping other women in their 50s. And she did a clinical trial on this and created something called the CogniDiet. You're going to hear all about this today, and you'll be able to get a really cool training that she's done for free at jjvirgin.com/CogniDiet, spelled CogniDiet. Okay, Veronique Cardon, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm excited I pronounced your name right. Did I?
Yes, you did.
I did. Okay. Yes. I feel more international just by saying it. I think I might say it a couple times throughout. It's so beautiful. All right. So you're obviously not from the United States originally, right?
Yes, I came from Belgium, but I've been here for more than 20 years. So I have been Americanized.
But you still have that beautiful accent. Yay.
Never going to go away. It's
yes.
Yes.
Yes, definitely keep that.
It's more sexy to pronounce vegetables names or fruit names with a French accent.
Absolutely. You make Brussels sprouts and broccoli sound good. So you just keep that on over there. We are going to be digging into some interesting stuff today. And what I'd love to know before we dig into the CogniDiet is, how did you get interested in health? How did this all start for you?
Yeah, very good question. Well, I came in the US and I was a rather healthy person, and I landed in Atlanta and I began to lead a rather unhealthy life. I gained 40 pounds in a few years because I started to eat things I had never eaten before, like processed foods. I started
So you came from Belgium to the southern U.S.
everything fried, gigantic portions, the snacking culture, which is something we didn't have in Europe, foods in meetings, something we didn't have in Europe.
I hope everybody heard that. See, they do not snack in Europe. I remember walking down the street, Veronique, holding on to a loaf of bread, which everyone was buying these baguettes to take them home. I'm buying the baguette and eating it walking down the street. And everyone was looking at me like I was like had horns, So
Yeah. So after a while, I was diagnosed with a fatty liver. I was pre-diabetic. I mean, this was terrible.
Wow, you really did yourself in.
Totally. And it went very quickly. And that's something to remember also. It goes very quickly. So finally I got out of all this and I decided, Veronique, you have to become the old Veronique. And, I got a degree in nutrition. I'm an engineer by training, but I was like, if I have to educate myself, I may as well get a nutrition degree. And then two things happened to me. I got ovarian cancer in 2001. And it's another story, but I'm a miracle survivor. And then depression and a complete burnout got me into severe depression a few years later. And I was working at that time in New York. I had a very high level job. I was an executive. And then I knew I had to change my lifestyle. And stress was a very big factor in the way I was not really taking care of myself the way I should. And that's very important in the CogniDiet. So I came back to my roots. I started to eat naturally again. I exercised more and I lost those 40 pounds. And what's important is that I've kept them at bay for the past 10 years. So lifestyle is very important in how you can keep your weight at a healthy level. And I decided to help other women, busy women like me, because I'm a breadwinner. I was a commuter. I had a big job, and I'm a go-getter and very ambitious person. So you know what? If you don't take care of yourself, nobody will take care of you. And women have a tendency sometimes, well, very often, in fact, to let everything else come before them. The kids, the partner, the this, the that, the parents. And what I learned in my change process, because to get out of this depression, I had really to rewire my brain. I decided to use it because I felt if you go to a nutritionist, I mean, some of them are pretty good at using a lot of techniques to make you more motivated and so forth. But we're not really digging into a lot of other aspects about nutrition. And I felt if you do cognitive behavioral therapy, those guys don't know how to speak about nutrition. So I decided to combine all this and I tested it. And that's how the CogniDiet was born.
Very cool. I love, so often you get someone from outside the field who has a health challenge and comes in and their previous life, like you being an engineer and super analytical, I would assume, probably contributed to being able to put this whole thing together. So let's dig into this CogniDiet. First of all, I love the name, but what exactly is it?
Well, it came from the fact that everything comes from your brain, every decision, every move, every thought. So if you don't deal with your mind first, how are you going to deal with your body? And I also, I have been a yo-yo dieter for many years, but diets don't work because in fact, you're already giving yourself permission that it's not going to continue. So your brain thinks, oh, it's only for a while until I lose my 30 pounds or whatever. But you haven't changed. You're the same. I mean, some people change, but in general, people don't change. It's because you're too busy counting calories, looking at your food or doing things like that. Whereas if you start from the brain, you start to really take a step back and you become more observant and more attuned to your behaviors. And the brain, in fact, is plastic. It's called the science. And you're right, I'm a nerd.
We love nerds. We love them.
Yes.
We celebrate geeks on this show.
Neuroplasticity, so it's all about the ability of your brain to change. And your brain can learn things for a very long time. You can learn new things when you are in your 90s. There is no limitation. So also, your brain wants to be happy. And when your brain is not happy, it's going to go into finding some pleasure. And pleasure can come from food and especially from sugar. So I took this concept that you can rewire your brain and you create new pathways. We have all those old habits in our brain. They're like old ropes, thick ropes. So I help you to unravel them and at the same time create new pathways, but it's a lot of work. But it works. So, in order to change, I said, okay, I looked at, mindfulness-based stress reduction. I looked at emotional brain training. I looked at cognitive behavioral therapy, and I read all those books and I found them boring and very complicated. So I said, how am I going to put all this together so it becomes a program where women who are very busy are learning something interesting. They feel like they're more in control because they know what they put in their body, but they also know, oh, geez, this is going on in my head when I see this sugar. So that's what I did. And I help people changing their minds so they start to change their behaviors. And I think you wanted me to have a couple of tricks, right? So
I would love tricks. Yes.
Okay. So for instance, and it's very brainy, when you have a sugar craving, what you can do is you can put your brain into a state of shock. So your brain wants sugar. Your brain is in that mode and is expecting it. So what you do is you put something in your mouth that's going to be either very bitter. I recommend the use of bitter sprays, or you are going to chew in a lemon, which is very sour.
Yes, that's one. I actually have a product, a drink I make that I recommend to everybody called my lemonade, because sour is a way to take your sweet tooth away. So I love that little sweet craving hack. That's a great one.
Yeah, or a peppermint tea. Peppermint also, not a chewing gum, a very strong peppermint tea. So this is gonna put your brain into a state of shock because it's not getting what it wants. So another one is in cognitive behavioral therapy, you have to write a lot and you have to read a lot and you have to repeat a lot your positive automatic thoughts. And there is a link between the hand and the brain. So the more you write and the more you internalize what you want. But I have a story about a client who was always going for the cookie in meetings and so forth. And her way of dealing with it is she wrote on her hand, I don't need this. IDNT. It's not easy because she had to write it with your left hand on your right hand. But this was, each time she was going for the cookie, she saw this. And she stopped eating them, in fact. She was doing she was retraining her brain.
We need to create a little tattoo, a little hand tattoo.
Hand tattoo.
Put the cookie down.
Yes. Another one which I like is we don't count our bites. So I do this exercise or ask my clients to do this a lot. And I say, unless you're eating vegetables, something super healthy, your bites are usually going to be maybe not a small bite, but an average bite between 30 and 50 calories. They go, next time you go to a party or you somewhere, count your bites and each one is 40 calories. And that has started to change some behaviors because the brain, in fact, does not count the bites. The brain only focuses one bite at a time. So by the time you are to your 15th bite, you have forgotten. Not if you count them. And then you say, geez, I had 10 bites already. I shoved 400 calories in my mouth in 1 hour.
I know you put together, we have a 3-part training series you're going to get, and you're going to get a lot more of those. And I love these. I look at these as like little pattern interrupts that you can just put into play to help people break the cycle. And they're so powerful. So I just love that you have these things. Now, you've also, with your CogniDiet diet, you did a clinical trial on it.
Yeah.
So what came out of that?
Okay. So as I said, I'm a nerd, but I also worked in pharmaceutical industry for many years. So I was in commercial roles, but I know about clinical trial. And I was like, I'm new on the market. Nobody knows me. Who is this Veronique Cardon? She's a good marketer in pharma, but hello, all of a sudden she's a nutritionist. So I felt like, you know what? I'm going to test my program and I'm going to prove to the world it works. So I did a clinical trial, and like very serious, with collecting the data every week on my special scales. And I had some doctors as advisors. I work also with a psychologist and another nutritionist. And we did the CogniDiet curriculum for 12 weeks. So I work 99% with women. And this clinical trial was only for women. And also women, the average age was 56. So these are women who are menopaused. And
that's a whole different. I'm just turning 55, and I love that you did a study for women at that age, because it seems like they're all done on men, first off. Yeah. And, as women start to, right as from 45 on, it's a whole different world for all of us. So
yeah, and
it wasn't like you took the easy way out here, Veronique.
I appreciate this, JJ, because you're absolutely right. I didn't go the easy way because, it's not easy to lose weight once you get older, but it's possible. And to tell you the truth, the women who lost the most on my trial were in their 70s. So
love it. Love it. You can. I was in a gerontology graduate program or doctoral program at USC, and we had women in their 70s or in 80s who were amazing. So, and I'm my fittest, leanest ever in my 50s. So this can all be possible. I never want someone to go, oh, well, I'm getting older. It's like, no, you're getting better. Right. So very cool.
The maximum weight loss we've seen so far is 45 pounds in 12 weeks. And on the program, they lost 12 pounds average, and 80 to 90% of that weight loss was fat, which is excellent. And the maximum was 33 pounds in the trial. But more importantly, 6 months after the trial, which is then almost 9 months, they've lost another 2 pounds average. So the 14 pounds. So
that's the key thing, because and again, I look at diets very therapeutically to create some initial response. And then what do you do to shift? Because what got you there won't keep you there, so that you can maintain and continue to improve. So the fact that you could show that is so significant. I want to underline that.
Yeah, and thank you. And I'm very proud of this because I've published an abstract and I presented my study first results at the American College of Nutrition in November 2017. And I have been invited to present my 6 months data at the American Society of Nutrition in Boston in June. So this is serious.
So what are a couple of the key pieces of your program that you think have, are part of the big reason it's so successful?
I think that women, I can say women because that's 99%, right, of my clients. Instead of focusing on the diet, they focus on themselves. I asked them, for instance, to say, what do you like about yourself? What do you love about yourself? And they say, what does it have to do with a diet? I say, yes, it has to do, because when you focus on what you love about yourself and you make your brain happy, you put yourself on a path of success. Women very often, all they're going to do is, I'm old. My hair doesn't look good today. My boobs are sagging. We are very self-critical. So you have to take what you have right now, that is your assets, and make it your foundation for success. I think also and that's again must be my training, but I pay great attention at educating my client on the whys. Why is sugar bad for you? Why do you have to always have preferably fat and a protein with your carbs? Why, what is happening to this sugar in your body? And I don't get into too technical or too scientific, but you are empowered then, because when you make a decision, you know exactly what goes on. And there's so much misinformation around us right now. You start to really observe yourself and you become more self-aware. Once you become more self-aware, you start to pay attention. The trick is for people to learn to stop a few seconds just before they are going to put this piece of cake or whatever in their mouth. And then you become more attuned to what your body needs to eat naturally. And because I'm really supporting a very natural, healthy way of living, the minute you give good food to your body, you are going to start losing weight, because your body is happy and your brain is happy. And I think that's why they continue to lose weight after the program, because they have adopted a healthier way of eating, and their body thanks them. They get rid of the inflammation, in fact. All that processed food, the sugar,
Yes.
that fat is creating a state of inflammation in your body, and you get rid of it. And it prevents you from losing weight. You get rid of it once you start to eat more naturally.
Well, and I'm a fellow comrade in figuring out where sugar is sneaking in and getting rid of it. And I just want to let everyone know that you've done a deep dive into what really sugar really is, which I think so many people are confused. Sugar is sneaking into so many things, and what it can do to you, and then how you can deal with these cravings. So for everybody listening, you've got a 3-part training series that everyone is going to get for free by going over to jjvirgin.com/CogniDiet. I thank you so much for that. Let me spell CogniDiet. It's CogniDiet, one word, CogniDiet. And that is fabulous. And I really appreciate your generosity on that one, Veronique. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And now, I'd love to just shift gears and throw one more little thing at you. And it's this. I'd love to know what you do every day, Veronique, that you feel like makes the biggest difference in your life.
First of all, I had to rewire my brain to get out of this depression 10 years ago. And it's not that I did not love myself, but I have learned to be a happy person. And every morning when I wake up, in 99% of the cases, I embrace what's going to happen that day. And when I look at myself in the mirror, I always say to myself something nice, like, nice eyes today, Veronique, good makeup. Or I like what I'm wearing. So I start my day with my little boosting support. And I have a very hectic life with this nutrition, and because I have a practice, and I also started this whole online program. So I have found a way to squeeze in my exercise and not use excuses. So I am a runner. When I can, I go run my 4 or 6 miles. So that I do at least once or twice a week. But when I can't, I don't use it as an excuse. And I go to the gym next door and I do my 20-minute high intensity interval training. And my husband and I are amazing cooks, and we love to cook, and we only eat fresh food that we cook at home. So we pay very great attention to what we eat. And in fact, we taught this to our 2 girls, because my girls in their 20s now are both very healthy and excellent cooks. So they learn by example. So cooking healthy, running, going to the gym, and loving myself.
And absolutely, amen, walking your talk. I love it when people are the real deal, Veronique. So thank you for that. I want to remind everybody, jjvirgin.com/CogniDiet. If sugar is a struggle for you, she's got you dialed here. And Veronique, thank you so much for taking time out with me today. I super appreciate it.
My pleasure, JJ.
All right, now after the break, I'm going to be answering a listener's question, so stay with me.
When you make a small change to something you do every day, the impact over time can be huge. And when it comes to breakfast, you don't want to blow it because your breakfast sets the pace for your entire day. That's why JJ created the all-in-one plant-based breakfast shake to start your day right. Whether you are vegan, vegetarian, or just looking to consume more plant-based foods, this breakfast shake is for you. It comes in 3 delicious flavors, vanilla, chocolate, and chai, and helps give you sustained energy, cuts cravings, and can melt pounds from your waistline. Visit jjvirgin.com/products to shift your fat loss and energy into high gear today.
Welcome back. This is the time where I answer a listener's question, and today's question comes off of Facebook from Kirsten, who says, all right, JJ, I know you're kind of like the sugar evangelist, but I have a little bit of natural honey every day in my tea, just a little bit. That's okay, right? It's all natural. I had to use this one because this was one of the top questions that happened after I wrote The Virgin Diet is people seem to be so confused about sugar. They're like, but this one's all natural. It's honey. And, it's a very timely question because the other day I was sitting out at lunch with a couple friends and one who always is complaining about his weight. And I ordered an iced tea, he ordered a hot tea, and he pulled out the little honey jar. And I'm like watching this, I can't believe it. He pulls out the little honey jar and he pours in some. And he poured in what looked to be about 2 teaspoons. And I'm looking, I go, what are you doing? And he goes, I just need a little sweet. And I'm like, he goes, it was just a little bit. I go, A, it wasn't a little bit. And B, it's what you do every single day that makes a difference. And, we already have sugar sneaking into so many places. We don't need any sugar. I remember trying to explain that. Mom was like, we need sugar. No, we don't need any sugar. And we never would have had like honey readily available 1,000 years ago. So think about the things that you do every day because it's when you swap those out that you make a big difference. If you are putting honey in something, now here's my rule with honey. If you've got seasonal allergies, then have some local, organic, raw, unfiltered honey, a half a teaspoon, used as a homeopathic. If you've already tried vitamin C and quercetin and you've pulled out your hidden food intolerances by doing the Virgin Diet, again, go to jjvirgin.com/challenge. We'll put that in the show notes to get on that for free. So if you've done all that, then use a little bit. But other than that, if you need to sweeten things, I want you to think about what Veronique said about retraining your taste buds and using the lemon to take the sweet tooth away. And in the interim, use a little bit of an approved sweetener like monk fruit or erythritol, stevia, xylitol, glycine, allulose. I have a sweetener product called Sprinkles that is a combo of erythritol and stevia and glycine. So it's a great combination that helps also regulate blood sugar and support good blood sugar balance. So that's what I want you to work on. And yes, the little bit of honey is a problem because you're doing it all the time. So it's still all natural. Yes, it's still sugar. By the way, mercury is all natural. Arsenic's all natural. Just because it's all natural does not make it healthy. All right. I'm going to get off that bandwagon. I'm going to start ranting about that. And I'm going to start raving about the podcast reviews that we appreciate over here so much. I want to do a shout out to one Kirky D from the USA, 5-star podcast review that says the absolute truth behind fitness and fat loss. I've searched for, applied, and struggled with many diets, but JJ teaches things that really work. Finally, I feel good before, during, and after I eat because now I know how to eat the right foods for me. Even better, I know how to exercise in a way that rocks my body with burst training instead of spending hours at the gym with frustrating results. Listening to this podcast is so helpful in teaching me new tips and tricks to implement as I go. Thanks, JJ. That was so well written too. Wow. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate that. And of course, this is my shameless beg, let's call it what it is, for you to leave a review because they do help a lot when people are trying to figure out whether they should listen. They go, oh, look what so-and-so said. And it helps a ton. So I appreciate it in advance. Thank you so much. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe so you never miss a podcast interview. I was going to say a week, but some weeks now I throw in bonus interviews where I'll answer your questions and stuff. So just keep the questions coming. Join me on my social sites too, and my YouTube channel, so that you can get your questions asked and answered in all these different areas. We love them. Keep them coming. We're getting the content out in all these different places. And again, thank you for being a part of my community. I will see you next week. Bye.
That's all for this episode of the JJ Virgin Lifestyle Show, which marks another step towards a healthier body and mind. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and we'll talk to you next week.